Welcome back. The Nehru Memorial Museum and Library in the national capital has now officially been renamed as the Prime Minister's Museum and Library Society, this with effect from August 14th. The decision was taken in a special meeting in mid-June. The vice chairperson of the memorial has said that the name change began on June 15th and that it was a mere coincidence that it got completed on the eve of Independence Day. But the decision to change the name has sparked a war of words, as you can expect, between the Congress and the BJP. The Congress has called the move petty and has claimed that the renaming of the memorial is being driven by Prime Minister Modi's fear of Nehru's legacy. Congress leader Jairam Ramesh has alleged that Prime Minister Modi has a single-point agenda of, and I quote, denying, distorting, defaming and destroying the Nehruvian legacy. While the BJP, on the other hand, is arguing that the country belongs to all and that the museum is dedicated to all prime ministers. Listen in to who said what today.
Pity that it came to this. I think that the idea of expanding what the building showcases to accommodate other prime ministers is an unexceptionable idea. But in the process, it's rather petty to take away the name of the first prime minister who led the interim government, who was prime minister upon independence, who was so far the longest serving prime minister at 17 years. You could have continued calling it the Nehru Memorial Prime Minister's Museum and Library. This pettiness is unfortunate and it shows a certain bitterness towards our own historical past, which I believe is not worthy of a government that has such a good majority.
तो बहुत ही घटिया राजनीति है कि देश के पहले प्रधानमंत्री के नाम को बदल के आप उनका एक तिरस्कार कर रहे हैं और मृत आदमी तो अगर आपका दुश्मन भी हो तो भी उसके लिए बुरा नहीं सोचा जाता, बुरा नहीं किया जाता। इस तरीके का करना भारतीय जनता पार्टी के संस्कारों को दिखाता है कि ये एक ऐसी पार्टी है जिसके अंदर मृत आदमी को भी अपमानित करने की कोशिश की जाती है।
उनके पास बचा क्या है? सिर्फ नई बात कोई बनाते नहीं। जो हमारी इतिहास की पुरानी यादें हैं, चाहे संसद हो, चाहे मेमोरियल हो, एक तो बिल्डिंगें बदल दो या नाम बदल दो, लेकिन पंडित नेहरू का नाम जो इतिहास में है आप उसको नहीं बदल सकते। जो इतिहास महात्मा गांधी, पंडित नेहरू, नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस, सावरकर जी, जो उनका खुद का इतिहास वो लोगों ने बनाया है, आप उनका जैसा इतिहास नहीं बना सकते, इसलिए आप नाम बदल रहे हो। ठीक है।
मैं तो एक सवाल पूछना चाहूंगा कांग्रेस से, नेहरूवादी विरासत क्या है? कोई विरासत नहीं है नेहरूवादी विरासत। ठीक है, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री थे, जिस घर की बात कर रहे हैं ये कमांडर इन चीफ का घर हुआ करता था और जब पहला भारतीय कमांडर इन चीफ बना उसने कहा कि ये घर मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ा है, करियप्पा साहब ने, और शायद ये प्रधानमंत्री के लिए घर ज़्यादा उपयुक्त रहेगा। तो अगर सब प्रधानमंत्रियों का संग्रहालय बना है तो उसका नाम तो प्रधानमंत्री संग्रहालय होना चाहिए ना, सभी प्रधानमंत्रियों के लिए। तो नेहरू जी का भी उसमें संग्रहालय है, उसमें दिक्कत क्या है?
A quick chat with my guest this evening. I promise not to stretch it. Pradeep Mahor is leader of the BJP. Mohan Kumar Mangalam is spokesperson of the Congress party. Thank you both for joining us. Mr. Mangalam, the simple question is this. The BJP's argument is that this was a memorial and a library that was just dedicated to one Prime Minister, Prime Minister Nehru, India's longest serving Prime Minister, but it has been since expanded to include the legacies of all of India's Prime Ministers. So if the museum and library has been expanded to accommodate all Prime Ministers, isn't it only natural that we change the name of the museum and library from the Nehru Memorial Library and Museum to the Prime Minister's Memorial Library and Museum? It's logical, they say, why kick up a fuss?
In changing the name of the Nehru Memorial and Museum, the Prime Minister has strayed from, I would say, convention in all post-colonial countries where they had prime ministers who fought in their battles of independence, whether that be violent or non-violent. Nelson Mandela's house where he stayed is still a memorial. Even America, George Washington, their first premier. He's housed in Mount Vernon, is still a memorial. Even Pakistan, where Jinnah's home, where he was the first prime minister, Quaid-e-Azam House, is still a memorial dedicated to him. And even Sri Lanka, where Jayawardene was the first premier, is still dedicated to him. The first prime minister after obtaining independence has a very special place. And Jawaharlal Nehru was not only a freedom fighter who spent over almost a decade in jail. This particular building was also inaugurated in his name by Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan and Lal Bahadur Shastri. I'm not sure what the Prime Minister has against either of them. His own home in Allahabad, that I think now has been renamed by the BJP to Pragya Raj or something, was given away to the government of India by his daughter, Srimati Indira Gandhi, at that point in time. I also will say that a couple of years ago, when the Prime Minister, while being the helm of the country, had a stadium named after him, he also joined in with the other fascists in history, who while they were at helm, whether that was Mussolini in Italy, or whether that was Stalin in Russia, or whether that was Kim Il-sung in Korea, had stadiums named after him. Even Saddam, when he was in power, had a gymnasium named after him. So clearly he's breaking away from democratic conventions and moving slowly to fascist conventions. It's very unfortunate. If he really wanted to have a museum for all the prime ministers, he could have built it somewhere else. He's taken enough pains to build or rebuild an entire central vista. What was the need to actually go ahead and make this particular building that was dedicated to our country's first prime minister into a building for all prime ministers and then renaming it? You know, it's not the naming, it's the renaming that's the issue. And Congress does not have this sort of approach towards previous prime ministers. When we came to power in Himachal Pradesh, we did not rename the Atal Tunnel. There are a lot of things named after many prime ministers, but you must remember that this was our first prime minister after we obtained independence, who had a very, very important role in the freedom movement.
Okay, I think you've made your point. Pradeep Mahur, how is it okay for the Prime Minister to name a stadium after him, but rename a memorial and a library named after Prime Minister Nehru? They say you have a problem with Nehru and its legacy. Therefore, you try to distort it and defame it all the time. This is another chapter in that long story that is ongoing.
Shreya ji, they can say anything, but my point of view is like, say, this place is meant to showcase the leadership of India. So when you are showcasing the leadership of India, ultimately it involves Indira Gandhi also, it involves Rajiv Gandhi also. There should be Lal Bahadur Shastri also, who actually inaugurated it for Jawaharlal Nehru. He could not have done it for himself at that point in time. So that is why he did for. This is the logic this Congress spokesperson has. So why not VP Singh? Why not IK Gujral? Why not Atal Bihari Vajpayee? These prime ministers, they all did some good things for India. So if you are showcasing the history, everybody should be there. As far as Jawaharlal Nehru is concerned, we do not have any problem. They are actually claiming that we have problem. On November 2014, Bharatiya Janata Party celebrated that 125th anniversary of Jawaharlal Nehru. If anybody had any problem, we wouldn't have done it. So if we had any idea of wiping out his name, as these people are claiming, we would have just let it go, forgot that date itself. So we didn't do that. As far as that place is concerned, definitely he was the first Prime Minister of India. So he got the first place there. There is a separate area which is known as Jawaharlal Nehru, this area, wherein when you enter,
Mr.
he has got the first place. The point is, he is India's first Prime Minister. He is the builder of great institutions like the IITs and the IIMs and ISRO and BARC, etc. You cannot take that away from him. Now, point is, where was this memorial and library located? It was located at Teen Murti. What is Teen Murti? That was Jawaharlal Nehru's residence. It was not the residence of VP Singh or Indira Gandhi or Rajiv Gandhi. It was his residence that was converted into a memorial and a library. And that is how it has been for the last 76 years. Now the BJP government decides to expand it and honor other prime ministers as well. That is very well. It's a good idea.
that honor every prime minister of this country, because all of them have done something good for this country. Could that not have been a separate place with a separate name?
Look, first thing is that why not this place? Because ultimately, if you are placing all the tits and bits of history at one place, it will be easier for the people to go and have a look at it rather than creating separate buildings. I mean, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji was residing somewhere else, so tomorrow create a memorial for him. Indira Gandhi was residing somewhere else, so create a memorial for. What is this logic? I'm really surprised with the kind of logic these Congress people are giving. I mean, they are very confused. They have no agenda. Okay. So they are bringing in all useless agendas and discussing useless things. As far as Jawaharlal Nehru is concerned, let me bring in here. They are saying that he was a symbol of democracy. He was not a democratically elected Prime Minister of India. We have to understand. He was sworn in by the British government that time, right? And he took oath for the Queen. I mean, we should understand. Still, we have a lot of respect for him.
Mr. Mahor, मैं क्या बोलूं आपको? मैं आपको क्या बोलूं? If I say something, I will be called a spokesperson for the Congress party. You do know that he was the Prime Minister of this country for 17 years and you are telling me he was not democratically elected. Anyway, I'll let Mr. Kumar Mangalam do the job of the Congress spokesperson and respond to you. Mr. Mangalam, please go ahead.
How do you answer something that's so ludicrous? I mean, is this even worth responding to? Let me add to some more facts that Mr. Mahor may not know. In June this year, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, had a park named after Jawaharlal Nehru, renamed after his two sons. That is BJP's version of Parivarwad. I am surprised actually that like all good students of WhatsApp University, Mr. Pradeep Mahor hasn't brought up the fact that Shri Jawaharlal Nehru gave himself the Bharat Ratna, which is another myth that they've come up with. He says they're not insecure about Shri Jawaharlal Nehru, but in 7th standard in
that Rajasthan, is his preconceived notion. I did not say anything like that.
History books. Let me finish. In Rajasthan, they erased his name from the entire history textbooks of the 7th and 8th standard. Like he doesn't exist. That's how insecure they are. And day and night, their social media trolls spread enormous amount of lies about Shri Jawaharlal Nehru all through the day. They are deeply insecure. And in their insecurities at its peak in the Prime Minister alone, who decides that he should break convention from all other post-colonial countries that choose to honor their first prime minister and rename his home where he moved in as prime minister and stayed till the day he died. And then they say he was not democratically elected. He was the longest serving democratically elected prime minister. He came up with universal adult franchise in the spirit of democracy, which most countries did not even have. When he came up with that, most countries didn't even have universal adult franchise, one man, one vote. You're saying that he's not a Democrat? There was hardly any opposition toward, against him in the 15 years that he was there. In order to ensure that there were ideas opposing his, he wrote in national publications under a pseudonym, opposing his own ideas. That's the level of democracy that he believed in. Please don't talk off your hat. It's ridiculous.
Mr. Mahor, I'm going to come to the question that I started with. How's it okay and acceptable for a prime minister to have a stadium, a cricket stadium, in fact, the world's largest cricket stadium, named after him, but erase the name of India's first prime minister from an iconic memorial and library? How's that okay? How is it okay for Prime Minister Modi to have a stadium named after him, but not a memorial and a library named after Nehru? How is it okay? This is then double speak.
No,
and this is hypocrisy.
Not double speak. Let me come on to it. First of all, the name is not erased. He is already there. He is first Prime Minister of India. He has been honored. Second,
the name is not erased.
There are many stadiums in India. Let me complete.
The name has not been erased. Nehru has been dropped from the Nehru Memorial and Library, right? So the name has been erased.
You're talking about stadium. You're talking about stadium, so let me complete. So there are many stadiums in the name of Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. There are many stadiums in the name of Indira Gandhi stadiums. There are many stadiums in the name of Rajiv Gandhi
Okay.
Stadium. So this family, this Gandhi family, has got their, whatever they did for the country, they are respected for that. I mean, we have kept all of them. That man name is not erased. But as far as this place is concerned, when you are inviting, I mean, earlier, what was the situation of this place? This was just lying. Nobody actually entered this place. Now, when this place is renewed, modernized, right? Then all the prime ministers.
Nobody entered that place. आप कैसी बात कर रहे हैं, Mr. Mahor?
Yeah.
Every research scholar in this country knows where the Nehru Memorial and Library is.
So when
It was
did
not,
you
not
visit
an
and when
institution that was wasting away.
institution was not wasting away?
Actually,
The thing
I
is
have
this.
visited quite often because I have friends. I have friends there, so I have visited quite often. Look, I don't understand the point you're trying to make. Are you trying to make the point that the Nehru Gandhi family has enough stadiums and libraries named after them, so it is okay for it? It is absolutely okay if their name is dropped from one of them and Prime Minister Modi has one stadium named after him. I think that is the argument you are giving, and many people who are watching this broadcast will say that's a valid argument, Mr. Kumar Mangalam.
Why is that a valid argument? Aren't there stadiums and other things named after?
It's a
Sri
valid
Atal Bihari
argument because
Vajpayee
there
or
is no
other
doubt.
leaders
I'll
of
tell you why
theirs?
that's a...
No. I'll tell you why.
No,
That's
give
not
me
valid
a minute.
Empty words.
Give me a
Empty
minute.
words.
Go ahead, Shreya. Go ahead.
Listen, I'll tell you why I think
Go
it's a
ahead,
valid argument. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I think it's a valid argument because when we were growing up and even today, you have a lot of stadiums and public places named after Indira Gandhi, Nehru, Rajiv Gandhi as well. So that's what we've seen growing up. And it's the point the BJP makes all the time, that this family appropriated every public place and named it after them, whether it was a park, whether it was a stadium, whether it was anywhere else. So they have a valid point there.
Shreya, let me respond to that. If that particular stadium, which actually, by the way, also was a renamed stadium, it was named after Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So it wasn't also a stadium that was originally named after Sri Narendra Modi. If that stadium was named Atal Bihari Vajpayee Stadium, I would have no problem with it. I'm talking about someone naming something after themselves when they're at the helm of affairs. Like Mayawati built statues for herself when she was a sitting chief minister. Like Saddam built gymnasium with his name when he was ruling over that country. Like Mussolini built Stadio Mussolini in Italy when he was ruling over Italy. There's a big difference between other people dedicating structures they've built to leaders long gone posthumously and someone, when they're at the helm of affairs, losing their influence and power to have structures or educational institutions or anything named after them. There is a huge difference between the two.
Okay. I'm out of time. I don't think this debate is ending anytime soon, but I will have to end it here because my time is up. Thank you very much, Kumar Mangalam, for joining us on the broadcast. Pradeep Mahor, thank you very much for joining us as well. Let's see how the story plays out tomorrow. For the moment, it's a wrap from me. My colleague Shreya Upadhyay is joining you at the top of 9 with all the day's top stories. Do stay with Mirror now.